Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors finally break the 5-game losing streak, winning 99-93 over the Houston Rockets at Chase Center on Thursday night. Jonathan Kuminga, take a bow. I don't want to be too reactive to this, but that has to be the best performance of his career, doesn't it? The best individual performance. It clearly is from a scoring standpoint. Has 33 points, 14 in the fourth quarter. Warriors hold on. I was getting very anxious, very nervous. The Warriors led throughout the entire second half, but at no point was it ever comfortable. The Rockets kind of kept within 4 to 6 points there over the final 5-6 minutes of the game. And we know what had happened over the last 5 games with the Warriors. In 4 of those games, holding significant advantages, or at least three of those they held significant advantages in. And then the fourth against the Thunder, they were up by 3 with about 6 minutes left. It felt pretty ominous again. But instead, Jonathan Kuminga was like, hey, it's all right. I got this. Couple of big plays down the stretch, back to back. Big one there in the final 20 seconds, kind of got the switch onto Van Vliet a couple of times and took him to town. Wow. This is, if you're the Golden State front office, if you're Mike Dunleavy Jr., and probably more so Joe Lacob, I think this is the performance that you will look to and say to all fans, hey, you know why we haven't traded this guy yet? You guys have been screaming out that we need to make a move, that we need to sacrifice some of our young players, that we need to make a decision on this guy. This is why he's still a Warrior. It's because he is capable of performances like these. Now, he's done this before, but not to this level, not in winning performances, not as a go-to guy down the stretch. I don't recall a game where Jonathan Kuminga, he was just the guy. He just took over a game in the fourth quarter and won the Warriors a game. He's had other performances with 20-plus points. He's had a couple of other 30-plus point performances, but not like that. That was emphatic. That was definitive. That was huge. 14 fourth quarter points, and it was just not relying on the jump shot. It was just getting downhill and saying, hey, you've got no one that can guard me. Şengün is an improved defender this season. He's helped lead the Rockets to one of the best defenses in the league. That's the other thing. Jonathan Kuminga did this against one of the best defenses in the NBA. And yet he just took over down the stretch, right? One of the best defenses in the NBA, and he didn't care. Did not matter to him. He looked at Şengün and said, I'm just going to put you in the basket time after time. If you're coming over helping at the rim, it doesn't matter. I am too big. I'm too strong. I'm going over you. I'm going through you, whatever. Fred Van Vliet on a switch. Van Vliet's a good defender, but he's also like 5'11". And Kuminga's like, I'm just too big for you. Okay? I'll power my way through you to the rim and no one can stop me. It was quite extraordinary. A few of your comments here. Drew said locked in. O'Shane said, hope this is the freeing up of Kuminga. Always said the short leash made him lack confidence. Kuminga's game slowed down tonight. I think it helped him. When you say slowed down, it's because it was so much more a playoff, like a traditional NBA game, if that makes sense. Like it was old school, half-court offense. For the Warriors, it was none of this like high ball movement, high player movement style. It was often just going through Wiggins and Kuminga, your two wings, the only two guys who had it offensively. Those guys combined for 56 of Golden State's 99 points. Nearly 60% of the Warriors scoring came through Jonathan Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins. And so it just felt so much more simplistic for Kuminga. So when you say it slowed down, I just think it was simple for him. And there is a factor, and I don't want to, this is nothing against Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the greatest player this franchise has ever had. He's one of the top 5, top 10 greatest players in NBA history. But there's no doubt that Kuminga, and not just him, but others, see Steph Curry on the floor, and there is a sense of hesitation, especially as a young player. Kuminga's still 22 years old, right? There has to be a sense of hesitation of, when you're going at it offensively, should I be taking this shot? Should I be pulling this three? Should I be taking my man off the dribble and trying to get to the rim or get to my mid-range? Because if I miss that, then everyone's looking at it and saying, hang on, you've got a top 10 player in NBA history over there who probably should have taken that shot instead. And so when Curry's not playing, Kuminga he gets the license in that situation. He gets the license to do what he does best, which is as a go-to scorer, right? Get him involved in the action, not as too many times when Steph and Draymond are on the floor. Like, Kuminga is just a spot-up three-point shooter, which is just not his game whatsoever. O'Shane says, tuning in from Jamaica, keep grinding with your comment. Thanks for tuning in, Jamaica. I'm not sure there's too many people tuning in from Jamaica, but happy to have you here. As I said, I think when Curry's not playing, when Draymond's not playing, it allows Kuminga to be who he wants to be. Now, this tonight actually led to a victory, right? And I think that's the difference, is that Kuminga's played games without Steph and without Draymond, and usually he does have good games. He's capable, obviously the ball goes through him more. He can put up 20 plus, 25 plus points, but usually that's not overly effective to winning. This was different because this was a guy taking over again against this is the second seed Houston Rockets, for goodness sake. This is not a 10th or 11th seed and the Warriors just grinding it out against a bad opponent because they just had no offense themselves. This is the Warriors grinding it out against one of the best defenses in the league, against the second best team in the Western Conference right now, or they were heading into the game. Not sure what the standings say now. This is huge. Now, can it be the making? I think he's done this before. This is uncharted territory. Him taking over in the fourth quarter, being the go-to guy for the Warriors. It's uncharted territory. And so the hope here is that this can be the making of him. And this can just bring a level of confidence that could completely bring out another level of Jonathan Kuminga that fans have been waiting to see over his first 4 years in the league, and particularly the last couple of seasons. Yes, he was huge in the second half of last season, had so many great games. I don't think he had anything like this, where it's a close game, 1-2 possession game in the last couple of minutes, and it's get Jonathan Kuminga the ball. I was actually concerned for a bit because there was 2 straight plays late in the fourth quarter where Pajemski just ran plays himself. I think he got fouled on one by Van Vliet on like a scoop layup attempt, and then the second one he missed a mid-range jump shot. And I don't think on either of those possessions Kuminga or Wiggins touched the ball, right? And then finally, thankfully, we got away from that. Steve was like, no, hang on a second. Let's get away from that. I think the next possession might have been the one where Wiggins got stripped. And then there's like 3 possessions where it's like Kuminga layup downhill in transition after some great defense from Looney on Green, I think. And then GP2 got the steal. Kuminga out and running, finishes a layup over Van Vliet. Then is fouled the next time around, goes to the free throw line, goes 1 of 2, and then has that big one again in the final, I think with 17 seconds to go, to push it from a 3-point lead to back to a 5-point lead, and basically had the Warriors in control there. O'Shane says, understand Curry wasn't playing, but Pod's getting so many minutes. That's basically saying that's a long leash. I mean, he had to, unless you want Pat Spencer minutes, which we saw in the first half. So let's look at some of the box score numbers, more so than just obviously Kuminga's game. He's obviously the huge talking point. But yes, Pods plays 36 minutes and 43 seconds, which has to be a season high, you would imagine. That's essentially at least nearly 4 more minutes than any other player. Or at least, 3 minutes more than any other player. Wiggins played 33-35. Kuminga 32-55. Looney, I thought Looney was huge. I thought the plus minus really tells you there, plus 21, 11 rebounds, 5 on the offensive end. He played nearly 27 minutes. Buddy Hield, 27 minutes, another stinker. If the Warriors lost that game, I tell you what, Buddy Hield is a very, very lucky man. Because if the Warriors lost that game, the criticism that would have been heaped on him would have been a lot. And probably rightly so. You had Kuminga and Wiggins rolling. You just needed Buddy Hield to come along for the ride, and he never did. I was waiting for it. He never came along for the ride. Goes 1 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3, 5 points. Finishes as a plus 18. So those minutes weren't a disaster, but that was because the defense, Houston just had nothing going offensively, and because Kuminga and Wiggins were running the show just enough offensively. Like, Kuminga was huge. Wiggins was huge. No one else had it going. Hield 1 of 8. Pajemski, 2 of 9. Did have a career-high 12 rebounds. That's what impressed me about the Warriors. Their defensive effort was fantastic and had to be. When you're not playing with, when Steph's out and with Draymond also on the sidelines, we know he's, arguably the biggest facilitator on this team, runs so much stuff offensively that you have to make sure like you're going to win this game through defense. And as much as Kuminga and even Wiggins may be the storylines, the Warriors win this game through their defense. They keep the Rockets to, I think, 37.4% shooting from the floor, 26.3% from three-point range. Şengün got going a bit late, really tried to leave his mark on the game, but it was probably a bit too late. He ended up with 16 points. I think he might have had 12 or something in the fourth. Really, like, their possessions just became slow, get into Şengün in the post and let him go to work. Jalen Green had a brief period in the third quarter, but otherwise 4 of 16, 14 points. Jabari Smith goes 6 of 8. Brooks 6 of 13, 2 of 8 from 3. Van Vliet 5 of 16, 3 of 10 from deep. Amen Thompson was left open to take whatever jump shot he wanted, 5 of 13, 2 of 5. Shepherd 2 of 6, 1 of 5 from deep. So this was a defensive, like the first half particularly, where the Warriors led 49-43 at halftime. And that was really just because the Warriors had a bit of a burst there in the late in the second quarter. Thanks to Wiggins mainly in that second period. He had a couple of 4-point plays, which when you have 4-point plays in a game like this, they almost, to me, they felt like 8-point plays because offense was that difficult. Scoring was that challenging for both teams that if you got a 4-point play, that was like gold dust. That was incredible to be able to get those. And so he got 2 4-point plays in the first half, which was massive. Another efficient game from Wiggins, 8 of 15, 3 of 4, 9 rebounds. Again, the defensive effort was great, but I was even just as much impressed by the Warriors really ensuring they closed out possessions with rebounds. And a lot of the guys, Wiggins, Pajemski in particular, coming back, making sure to try and keep Şengün off the glass and Steven Adams as well when he was out there. They got a couple offensive rebounds, but it didn't really hurt the Warriors too much. And the Warriors needed it. Like, they couldn't afford to give the Rockets second, third, fourth opportunities. They couldn't afford to turn the ball over too much, and they did well in that department, only 10 turnovers. Because they struggled themselves, 41.9% shooting, 32.1% from three. Missed some free throws again, 18 of 27, 66.7% from the line there. Just a massive. I can't get over the Kuminga performance. I can't. It's the storyline. It's what we need to talk about again. Do I think this can be the making of him? I hope it is. I'm not overly confident because, again, it's a game where Steph doesn't play, and I'm still concerned. Like, Kuminga needs to take that leap where he finds, like, it's such a delicate balance between him finding the aggressiveness where he can be that guy even when Steph's on the floor, while also not letting it go too far to the point where he has a couple of mistakes. And we know if he has a couple of mistakes, Steve's going to pull him pretty quickly. And so can he find the balance? It's what fans have been waiting for. Like, can this guy be a 20-point scorer, a 25-point scorer? I actually have no doubts about that. I have no doubts that Jonathan Kuminga can average 20 points a game for a season. He can do that. But can it be with the Warriors? That's the question. I'm still not entirely sure. When Steph's not playing and he has a game like this, absolutely. But when Steph's playing, when Draymond's out there, when the experienced core guys are there, can he find the balance between being aggressive and also playing with those guys, understanding who those guys are, playing within the Warrior system? I just thought in a game like this, the Warriors had no other choice but to go through Jonathan Kuminga. He was their go-to guy, their only go-to guy. So I actually, in that fourth quarter, even if JK wasn't making buckets, and he was struggling, which we've seen a couple of times. Like, if you go back to that OKC game, he was poor in the fourth quarter in that OKC game. The Suns game, a couple of times where I think he might have got blocked at the rim. What was that? I'm trying to forget now. No, against the Nuggets, the other day, where he got blocked a couple of times, first by Murray, then by Jokic in the Nuggets game on Tuesday. He hasn't been great in fourth quarters, but at least in this one, even if he struggled a bit, you could say, oh, well, hang on. Like, there's actually no other player to run these possessions through. So even if he's struggling, it's not really like there's any alternatives. It's just, again, when Steph's out there, it's like if he makes a bad play, makes a bad read, misses a pull-up jump shot or a three, it's like, hey, we've got the best shooter of all time over there. We could have got something better than that. So I don't know. It's fascinating. Berserk Monk says, was a great game. Dubs own the Rockets. There's something going on here. There's it's actually probably getting in the Rockets' head to it. It's almost like the Clippers and us, where the Clippers, I don't think, are a better team than the Warriors, but they just seem to have Golden State's measure. And Houston have been excellent this season, but this is twice now where the Warriors have won without Steph. You would think going into both games that the Rockets would have been favorites and would have certainly thought that they would be able to close this winning streak the Warriors have over them, and yet they haven't been able to. And it's just a matchup thing, I think. Like, Şengün played well in the fourth, but I don't think he generally plays well against the Warriors. The same can be said for Jalen Green. Like, those two guys are capable of huge performances, and both games that the Rockets and Warriors have played this season, they just haven't played well at all, and they played very little minutes in that first matchup. Like, Şengün and Green got pulled, I think, and both played like less than 25 minutes or something like that in that game. So they don't match up very well with the Warriors, and the Warriors just kind of have them at the moment. Thandeka says we should play in the paint more. Kuminga and Wiggins are really good going to the paint. 15-0 against the Rockets. Yeah, so the Warriors, I mean, they had to be. They were 9 of 28, 32.1% from three. I don't think you'll see the Warriors take 28 threes. I don't think you'll see the Warriors take less than 28 threes in a game this season. That's incredibly low. Like, what do they average? Without looking it up, I'm saying they average early 40s. I am going to look it up. Why not? Let's have a look. I'm going to say they average early 43-point attempts. They're 41.3. 41.3 in the season. They take 28. And again, that's a personnel thing. No Steph Curry. Buddy Hield struggling. Lindy Waters doesn't play. Moody struggles. Moody goes 1 of 5 from 3, 1 of 7 for floor. Pods, we know, isn't shooting the ball very well. They just didn't have many three-point shooters. And credit to them. Credit to Kuminga. Credit to Wiggins. Credit to Steve. We've got to give Steve Kerr some credit. I'm sorry we do. He ran plays to have Wiggins and Kuminga diving to the rim. I think it's very easy when Steph Curry goes out for players to think, oh, well, I've got to step up. I've got to hit some threes for us to make up that absence of Steph Curry. And it felt like in this one, it's like, no. Without Steph, we are a completely different team because we don't have that insane, historically great three-point shooting ability. So we have to be different. We have to change it up. And I think the Warriors did well there. Like, again, Steve cops a lot of criticisms for his rotations and stuff like that. Think he deserves credit. Ran plays through Kuminga and Wiggins, getting them to the rim way too much in the last 5 games. We've just seen stagnant offense that inevitably ends with like a contested jumper. And there was none of that. And the Rockets, again, Steven Adams was pretty good off the bench for them. Şengün, again, as I said before, an improved defender. But if you can get through that first wave of perimeter defense, with Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Aman Thompson when he's out. Tari Eason was out through concussion for them, which I think was huge, like a big absence for them. Once you get through that first wave of defense, like there's not a whole lot of resistance at the rim. And Kuminga and Wiggins took advantage of that. Kuminga particularly, he's got so much craftiness around the rim, more so than just like his athleticism, which I think goes under the radar. Like, yes, he has the ability to just go through guys or over guys and be really powerful at the rim, but he also has like these kind of shots where he's fading and he uses glass, which is really clever and seems like it goes in a majority of the time. So he is a scorer. He's a bucket getter. As I said, I have no doubt that this guy can average 20 plus points a season in the league. And if you're doing that, then yes, you might be worth $150 plus million, right? But can it be on the Warriors? And that's still a question. But for the moment, this game, I think the best of his career. I don't remember a more impactful Jonathan Kuminga game. Again, that might be overreacting and recency bias. But I'm looking. Tell me if there's a bigger, impactful Jonathan Kuminga game throughout the course of his career. Berserk Monk. If the Warriors had a true stretch 5, Kuminga would be so much more lethal when driving. Yes, I agree with that. I want to see it. I want to get a guy that can shoot from deep from the 5 spot that you can throw in the corner when you've got Kuminga and Wiggins diving to the rim on plays like these, where you can, because these plays, a lot of them, like you still have to beat Şengün at the rim, right? Which again, it's Şengün, not the biggest resistance necessarily, but against most opponents, like there is going to be a genuine big there where, yes, you beat the first wave of defense, but because, Looney and Jackson Davis aren't pulling the center out at all, like there's still help there at the rim, which is going to make it a tough shot generally. Can you get a stretch five to pull that center out? And then if that does happen, a Kuminga and Wiggins, like the next evolution of Kuminga's game is going to be, okay, I'm driving to the rim. There's a guy in the Nikola Vucevic is in the corner. I'm just hypothesizing here. Jonathan Kuminga's driving. Nikola Vucevic is in the corner. Can Kuminga make that read and find him? Something like that. I don't know. But it certainly would bring another element to the Warrior offense and another element, I think, to Kuminga and Wiggins as well. So I do think it's important. Wrote about it again today. Jake Fisher's piece on the Stein line earlier, talking about Duop Reith and the Trailblazers taking calls on him. Now, I would probably want better than Duop Reith. I would want a more proven, experienced player that I think can be a genuine playoff rotation piece for me. But Duop Reith's making $2 million. He's 28 years old. He shot 36% from three last season. He's a 6'11 center. I'm a bit biased because I'm Australian. He's Australian. So I would like to see an Australian on the Warrior roster. But if you went to the Trailblazers and said, here's Guy Santos and a couple of second-round picks, they might just take that. He's their fourth-string center. They're not really utilizing him. What's the downside for the Warriors? What's the downside of having that option? Now, again, I think you'd prefer to make a trade for a more proven player than that. But if worse come to worse and you couldn't get Vucevic for whatever reason, or you couldn't get Kelly Olynyk or whoever it may be, I don't know why you couldn't just go out and pick up Duop Reith, and it's not really a risk. Thandeka Kerr made good decisions today. Yeah, I think he deserves credit. Thandeka need to practice those free throws, missing 5+ a game. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not something you just fix overnight. I think Pajemski's been better of late, and he goes 3 or 4 today, which is fine. Kuminga, what did they show late? He was 70, I think he was 59% this season after being 69%. So that's the real issue, is when like players are just going backwards on their free throws. Wiggins, 4 of 7. Kuminga, 4 of 6. If Kuminga's going 4 of 6, it's not appalling. Moody going 3 of 6. That's not great, because he's like supposed to be a shooter, and he went, I think the first half, was it the first quarter or early second, whatever it was, where he went 0 of 2 at the line. You can't be doing that. Like, you just can't. So really overall, like when Steph's not playing, going 66.7% from the free throw line kind of feels about right, about normal, to be honest, based on just where these guys' free throw shooting percentages are. Berserkmonk says, we did get a break not having to go against Eason. Yeah, he's a very underrated player. Jay asks, hello, mate. I have a question. How can we start Wiggins and JK together? Because those are the most athletic players the Warriors have. You're very right on the most athletic part. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a question the Warriors have been asking themselves. It's a question they tried to resolve at the start of the season, where they went with Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, TJD. This is the answer. The answer is you go out and you get a stretch big. The answer is, and I'll say it until it happens or he gets traded elsewhere. The answer is you go and get Nikola Vucevic, who I think is the most available stretch big, like good stretch big, like starter level stretch big on the trade market. You go out and get him, and you start Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, Nikola Vucevic. That's your starting 5. Because that way it allows you to still have enough three-point shooting. You theoretically have 5 shooters out on the floor. Like Kuminga and Draymond aren't shooters, but they'll take them. They'll take some wide open ones. Like defenses will allow it, but at least they're not complete net zeros like Looney and TJD, who just won't attempt a 3 for the entire season. All right. So that's their best way. The answer to your question is in asking how do Wiggins and Kuminga play together more, and particularly in the starting lineup, it's getting another center. Conquer them. Conquer them. It says by far his best game of his career. I agree with that. Berserk Monk, Timberwolves tomorrow will be a really bad matchup for us. I don't know if JK is just going to try and challenge Gobert at the rim. And we always have a really tough time guarding Naz Reid, to which Stendex says Naz Reid always plays pretty well against the Warriors. Well, that's another name if the Warriors wanted to stretch big. I'm not sure Naz Reid can be the anchor of your defense, although I don't think Vucevic necessarily can on a good playoff team either, but Draymond next to those guys. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. The Timberwolves have hit some form. They lost 7 of 9, but have won 3 straight, including massive blowout wins over the Clippers and Lakers. So it's going to be interesting. The Warriors haven't had a great time against the Timberwolves recently, lost their last 4 matchups, including the last, all 3 last season, I should say. In saying that, those 4 losses have all been by an average of 4 points. So these have been some close games. I know at least one of those went to overtime. It's really going to, Steph and Draymond, from what Steve said before this game, they could be back. I think Steve said the plan is for Steph to play. So maybe it's a case of that knee is okay. They just didn't want to play him back-to-back. And so they just picked and said, well, he'll play the second. So fingers crossed that's the case. Draymond's MRI on his calf came up negative, and there's been no confirmation that he's out. And Steve said that there's still a possibility that he returns. So hopefully one or both of those guys play, and that'll be obviously massive reinforcements against a very good Timberwolves team who have hit some form. Jay says, what about Olynyk? I think he's someone we can get without giving up JK. Yep. Yeah, no, I think Olynyk makes the perfect number for Melton. So if it can be Melton and a first-round pick for Olynyk, I don't think he's played so far this season. I think he's still out injured. And so you probably would want to see him on the floor before you trade for him. That's a bit of a concern for me. He's also not generally been a starting guy for you. So I think you could close games with that lineup, whether you'd actually start Olynyk at the 5, especially come playoff time. I don't know. It's why I still think Vucevic is a bit more proven. And the Vucevic asking price just isn't much by the sounds of it. It's okay, you match salaries with Melton and Payton, and then you throw in 2 seconds or a heavily protected first. It just doesn't seem... I've spoken about it a lot, so I'll get off it, but it just doesn't seem like too much downside there. Gamer F2P, scheduled loss if Draymond and Steph resting tomorrow. Well, all I can say is even if it is a loss, and I'm not going to say that straight up, but even if it is, it's very, very good thing that they won today. Because if all of a sudden you lose today and you're talking about playing the Timberwolves second night of a back-to-back, which, as you say, Timberwolves will probably enter as favourites. If this extended to a 7-game losing streak, then we've got problems, real issues. So thank goodness for Jonathan Kuminga. Thank goodness for him, because the Warriors don't win that game today again without him. And they break their 5-game losing streak. They move to 13-8. And all of a sudden, again, it's tomorrow's game isn't a free hit. You want to win the game, right? It's not a free hit. But if you lose, it doesn't feel as bad, obviously. Nowhere near. Can people still hear me okay? Sorry, my internet just absolutely died. Just a few more comments here and I'll finish things up. I apologize for that. Berserk Monk says, if the Pacers keep spiraling down, we could potentially snag Miles Turner. He's only making $20 million, and Pacers fans really like TJD. Yeah, if Miles Turner becomes available, then yes, absolutely. I just don't think that will necessarily happen. Val says, do you think they try to split the Minnesota games? Well, there's 3 coming up here in the next, 15 days. I think it's 3 games against the Timberwolves in 15 days. If you're talking about the next 2, I think I was asked last post-game live, I think, about the Warriors' record over the next 7 games. Now, obviously, they're 1-0 in these 7 games. I think I said that I wanted to win 2 of those 3 Minnesota matchups. So hopefully they can do that. Other than that, guys, I think I'm not connected through my microphone. So I'm going to finish up there. I apologize again. The internet just decided to die for some reason. Very frustrating. I better go anyway. We're about to start for any cricket fans out there, for anyone in any Commonwealth countries, particularly Indians, Australians, we are 4 minutes away from the second session of day 1 of the second test, Australia versus India. So I'm going to go watch that. I might edit this up a little bit. It'll be on podcast feed, obviously, afterwards, and a replay on YouTube. I'll clean it up a bit so it's a bit easier to watch for people on replay. Other than that, thank you very much to those of you that tuned in. Thank you to those that have commented. Young West says 66% free throws as a team today. It's just about what they've done, really. It's not when Steph's not playing and able to boost those free throws up. Kuminga, Pajemski, Wiggins. This is kind of Wiggins going 4 of 7 is a little bit disappointing. Moody going 3 of 6, I think, is very disappointing. But other than that, guys, again, thank you very much to those that tuned in. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. You can also follow us, Golden State with Mates, on TikTok and Instagram as well. I'll be back for another post-game live. Hopefully no internet issues then, and hopefully for a win for the Warriors, a second straight against the Timberwolves on Friday night.